My girlfriend spat on my face when I proposed to her in front of my entire family on Christmas. You? Only a $40,000 ring? How cheap and pathetic, she sneered. You know what? It's about time I told you, I've been having an affair with your brother. He's richer than you anyway. My brother smirked, finally someone with standards who appreciates real success. Mom added, some people just don't know how to treat a woman properly. Dad agreed, your brother always was the better provider. I didn't argue. I took the ring back and left. Little did she know I was the one secretly funding my brother's lifestyle. When I cut him off and she found out he was broke, she came back begging, but by then, I'd already proposed to her best friend with a $100,000 ring. And she's losing it. You know that moment when your entire world flips upside down in the span of 30 seconds? Yeah, well, Christmas Eve at my parents' house was exactly that kind of moment. Picture this, I'm down on one knee, holding what I thought was the perfect ring, surrounded by my entire family, about to propose to the woman I'd been with for 3 years. Sounds romantic, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. The second I opened that little velvet box, Zoe's face twisted into this look of pure disgust. Not the tears of joy I was expecting. Not the excited yes I'd rehearsed hearing in my head 1,000 times. Instead, she looked at that ring like I'd just presented her with a dead fish. You? Only a $40,000 ring? How cheap and pathetic. The words hit me like a slap across the face. But she wasn't done. Oh no, she was just getting started. What happened next? Well, she literally spat on my face. Right there in front of my mom, my dad, my brother Jake, and my grandparents who'd driven 3 hours just to be there for Christmas dinner. You know what? It's about time I told you, I've been having an affair with your brother. He's richer than you anyway. The spit was still dripping down my cheek when those words registered. An affair. With Jake. My own brother. The guy who'd been living in that fancy downtown apartment, driving that brand new BMW, taking those expensive vacations to Europe. The guy who everyone in the family always compared me to. Jake didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. Instead, he smirked, actually smirked, and said, finally someone with standards who appreciates real success. Can you believe the audacity? My own flesh and blood, sitting there at our family's Christmas table, bragging about sleeping with my girlfriend while I was planning to propose to her. But wait, it gets worse. Mom chimed in next. My own mother looked at me with disappointment and said, some people just don't know how to treat a woman properly. And Dad? Dad nodded along like he was agreeing with the weather forecast. Your brother always was the better provider. I sat there on one knee, ring box still open in my trembling hand, spit drying on my face, while my entire family basically told me I wasn't good enough. Have you ever felt completely alone in a room full of people who are supposed to love you? Because that's exactly what that moment felt like. But here's the thing about rock bottom, it gives you a really solid foundation to build your comeback on. I didn't argue. Didn't scream. Didn't throw the ring at Zoe's smug face, though every fiber of my being wanted to. Instead, I calmly closed the ring box, stood up, wiped the spit off my face with my sleeve, and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Mom called after me. Away from here, I said without turning around. I could hear them laughing behind me as I grabbed my coat. Laughing. At Christmas dinner. While I walked out of what I thought was my loving family home. The drive back to my apartment was a blur of snow and rage and humiliation. But somewhere between the third red light and pulling into my parking garage, something clicked in my brain. A memory. A very important memory that suddenly made everything crystal clear. See, there was something my dear brother Jake didn't know. Something my gold-digging ex-girlfriend definitely didn't know. Something that was about to turn their perfect little world upside down. For the past 2 years, I'd been the one secretly funding Jake's entire lifestyle. Yeah, you heard that right. Mr. Better Provider himself had been living off my money this whole time. The fancy apartment? I was paying the rent through a shell company I'd set up. The BMW? I was making the lease payments. Those European vacations? Funded by yours truly through carefully disguised business investments. You want to know why I was doing this? Because despite everything, Jake was my little brother. He'd always struggled with money, always made bad decisions, always came to me when things got tough. And like an idiot, I kept bailing him out because I thought family meant something. I'd made my money early, real estate investments that paid off bigger than I ever imagined. When I was 25, I bought a rundown apartment building in what everyone said was a terrible neighborhood. 5 years later, that terrible neighborhood became the hottest area in the city. That one building led to 3 more. Those 3 led to commercial properties. And before I knew it, I was sitting on a portfolio worth millions. But I lived modestly, drove a decent but not flashy car, and kept my wealth mostly to myself. Meanwhile, I was secretly making sure my brother could live the lifestyle that apparently impressed shallow women like Zoe. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. She was cheating on me with him because she thought he was successful, when in reality, his success was completely dependent on me. The same guy she'd just humiliated for being cheap and pathetic. But you know what they say about justice, she's got a wicked sense of humor. I spent the next 3 days making phone calls, canceling payments, closing accounts, terminating agreements. By December 28th, Jake's magical money fountain had completely dried up. The first sign things were going south for them came on New Year's Eve. Jake called me, panic in his voice. "Hey, Liam? There's been some kind of mistake with my rent payment. The landlord says it bounced." "Oh really?" I said, eating leftover Chinese takeout in my perfectly comfortable apartment. "That's weird." "Yeah, and my car payment too. And my credit card company is saying there's an issue with the automatic payment setup." Sounds like you should probably call your bank." There was a long pause. Can you spot me some cash until I figure this out?" This is where it gets interesting. "Actually, Jake, I'm kind of tight on money right now. You know how it is." Another pause. Longer this time. "But you always what?" "Nothing. Never mind." He hung up. And for the first time since Christmas Eve, I actually smiled. Over the next few weeks, Jake's perfect life started crumbling like a house of cards in a windstorm. The fancy apartment? Gone. Had to move back in with our parents. The BMW? Repossessed. Back to riding the bus like the rest of us regular folks. Those designer clothes and expensive dinners? Not happening on unemployment benefits. And Zoe? Well, let's just say she started noticing the changes pretty quickly. I heard through mutual friends that she was getting increasingly frustrated with Jake's sudden financial difficulties. Apparently, the man who was supposed to be her ticket to the high life was now asking her to split the check at Denny's. But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody saw coming, including me. Remember Zoe's best friend Iris? The one who'd always been kind to me, who'd actually told Zoe multiple times that she was lucky to have someone who treated her well. The one who'd rolled her eyes at Zoe's constant complaints about my boring gifts and simple dates? Yeah, well, Iris had been texting me since New Year's Day. It started innocently enough, she was checking to see how I was doing after what happened at Christmas. But those check-ins turned into longer conversations. And those conversations turned into something I hadn't expected. "I need to tell you something," Iris said during one of our phone calls in early February. "I've had feelings for you for a long time. Like, a really long time." "What do you mean?" I asked, though my heart was already racing. "I mean I've been in love with you since college. But you were with Zoe, and she was my friend, so I never said anything. I watched her treat you terribly and it killed me inside because I could see how amazing you were and she just didn't appreciate it." Have you ever had someone tell you something that completely reframes your entire understanding of your life? Because that's what that moment was like. "You've been in love with me for 6 years? 7, actually. Remember when we all went to that party junior year and you spent the whole night helping that freshman girl who was way too drunk to get home safely? You didn't even know her name, but you made sure she got back to her dorm and that her roommate was there to take care of her. That's when I knew you were different." I remembered that night. Zoe had been furious with me for wasting time on some random girl instead of paying attention to her. But Iris had been there too, and I'd completely forgotten that. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" Because what was I supposed to do? Break up a relationship? Be that girl who goes after her friend's boyfriend? I couldn't live with myself if I did that. But here's the thing that absolutely floored me: while Zoe had been cheating on me with my brother, Iris had been quietly loving me from a distance for 7 years. 7 years of watching me be with someone who didn't deserve me. 7 years of keeping her feelings to herself because she had too much integrity to interfere. Talk about a plot twist, right? Those phone calls turned into coffee dates. And those coffee dates turned into long walks where we talked about everything: our dreams, our fears, our plans for the future. And for the first time in years, I felt like someone actually saw me. Not what I could provide or what I could buy, but who I actually was as a person. Iris was everything Zoe wasn't. She was genuinely interested in my thoughts and opinions. She laughed at my jokes instead of rolling her eyes. She appreciated simple gestures like bringing her coffee or remembering details about her day. And she never once asked about my financial situation or seemed interested in what I could buy her. By March, I knew I was falling for her. Hard. By April, I was sure I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. And by May? Well, May was when I decided it was time for the grand finale of this whole mess. But first, I had some business to take care of. See, while Jake's life was falling apart and Zoe was getting increasingly desperate, I'd been busy making some strategic moves. Remember that real estate portfolio I mentioned? Well, I'd been expanding it. Big time. I bought 2 more apartment buildings in up-and-coming neighborhoods. I purchased a small office complex that was being converted to luxury condos. And I made what my financial advisor called the deal of the decade, a partnership with a major development company that was going to triple my net worth over the next 5 years. In other words, while my ex-girlfriend was discovering that her affair partner was broke, I was becoming legitimately wealthy. Not just comfortable. Not just well off. Wealthy. And nobody in my family had any idea. Meanwhile, the drama between Jake and Zoe was reaching epic proportions. According to my cousin Max, who lived next door to my parents and couldn't help but overhear the shouting matches, Jake and Zoe were fighting constantly. She was furious that he'd lied to her about his financial situation. He was furious that she only cared about money. She was demanding that he figure out how to get his lifestyle back. He was insisting that he'd never actually claimed to be rich, she just assumed. But the real fireworks started when Zoe figured out that I was dating Iris. It was bound to happen eventually. We'd been careful not to flaunt anything on social media, but we lived in the same city and had mutual friends. Someone was going to see us together and word was going to get back to her. That someone turned out to be Chloe Gray, a girl we'd all known in college who happened to work at the same restaurant where Iris and I had dinner one Friday night. By Saturday morning, my phone was buzzing with angry texts from Zoe. "How dare you go after my best friend? This is just sick revenge and you know it. Iris is only with you to get back at me. You're both pathetic. And my personal favorite, I hope you're happy ruining our friendship." I showed the messages to Iris, who just laughed. "She's really something, isn't she? Are you okay with all this? I know she was your friend." Was being the key phrase there. Anyone who would cheat on someone and then get mad when that person moves on with their life isn't someone I want to be friends with anyway. But Zoe wasn't done. Oh no, she was just getting started. Over the next few weeks, she launched what I can only describe as a full-scale campaign to break us up. She tried calling Iris, texting her, showing up at her work. She spread rumors that I was only dating Iris to make her jealous. She told people that Iris had been trying to steal me away for years. She even went so far as to try to turn our old college friends against us by claiming that we'd been having an affair behind her back. Which was particularly rich coming from someone who'd actually been having an affair. But here's what Zoe didn't count on: people aren't stupid. Our friends had watched her treat me poorly for years. They'd seen how she constantly criticized me, how she never seemed grateful for anything I did, how she always seemed to be looking for something better. And they'd seen how happy Iris and I were together. How we actually enjoyed each other's company. How we laughed together and supported each other and just genuinely seemed to fit. So when Zoe tried to paint herself as the victim in all this, most people saw right through it. But she still had one card left to play. And in July, she played it. I was at work when my assistant buzzed me. "There's a Zoe Cross here to see you. She says it's urgent." I almost told her to send Zoe away, but curiosity got the better of me. "Send her in." Zoe walked into my office looking like she'd been through a war. Her hair was a mess, her makeup was smudged, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. "No, we really don't. Please. Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I gestured to the chair across from my desk. 5 minutes. She sat down and immediately burst into tears. "I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Okay. Jake and I. It's over. It's been over for weeks. He's not who I thought he was. I could have told you that. I know. I know you could have. And I should have listened to you about everything. I should have appreciated what we had. I should have said yes when you proposed." Where do you think this conversation was going? Because I had a pretty good idea, and I wasn't looking forward to the rest of it. "What do you want, Zoe?" "I want us to try again. I want to fix what I broke." "That's not going to happen." "But we were good together. We were happy." "You were happy. I was convenient." She looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean you were with me because I was safe and reliable and treated you well, but you were always looking for something better. Someone richer, someone more exciting, someone who could give you more." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Then why did you cheat on me with Jake? Why did you spit on my face when I proposed? Why did you call me cheap and pathetic in front of my entire family? She was crying harder now. Because I was stupid. Because I was shallow and materialistic and I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. And now you realize it because Jake turned out to be broke. No, that's exactly why. If Jake still had money, you'd still be with him. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a small voice, maybe you're right. Maybe I am that shallow. But I've learned from this. I've grown. Have you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're here because your backup plan didn't work out and now you want your safety net back. I love you. And there it was. The word she'd never said in 3 years of dating. The word she was only saying now because she was desperate. No, you don't. Yes, I do. I've always loved you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have cheated on me. You wouldn't have humiliated me. You wouldn't have spent 3 years making me feel like I wasn't good enough. I can change. I'm sure you can. But I'm not interested in finding out. That's when she played her final card. It's because of Iris, isn't it? You think you love her, but she's just using you to get back at me. The whole thing is revenge against me for what happened with Jake. You really think that? I know that. Iris has always been jealous of me. She's always wanted what I had. And now she finally has it. I leaned back in my chair and looked at this woman who had once thought I wanted to marry. This woman who was so self-centered that she couldn't imagine anyone's actions not being about her. Zoe, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. She nodded eagerly. Iris isn't using me. She isn't trying to get revenge on you. She's with me because she loves me. Really loves me. The way you never did. That's not. Let me finish. She's been in love with me for 7 years. 7 years, Zoe. Since college. But she never said anything because you were her friend and she had too much integrity to interfere in our relationship. I watched as this information sank in. As she realized that while she was cheating on me, my current girlfriend had been loving me silently from a distance. So no, this isn't revenge. This is just what happens when someone actually appreciates what they have instead of always looking for something better. Her face crumpled. Please don't do this. Please don't throw away 3 years. I'm not throwing anything away. You threw it away when you spit on my face. I'll do anything. I'll change. I'll be better. It's too late for that. No, it's not. It's never too late if you really love someone. You're right. It's never too late if you really love someone. But I don't love you anymore, Zoe. I love Iris. She sat there staring at me for a long moment, like she was waiting for me to take it back. When I didn't, she stood up slowly. This isn't over, she said. Yes, it is. She left without another word. And I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I took Iris to the same jewelry store where I'd bought Zoe's ring. But this time, I didn't hold back. This time, I bought a ring that actually reflected how I felt about the woman I was buying it for. A stunning 3-carat diamond surrounded by smaller stones, set in platinum with intricate detailing along the band. The kind of ring that makes people stop and stare. The kind of ring that takes your breath away when you see it. The kind of ring that cost $100,000. The jeweler, an older man named Cole who'd helped me pick out Zoe's ring, raised his eyebrows when I told him my budget. This is quite different from last time, he said diplomatically. Different woman, different feelings, I replied. Ah. Well, in that case, let me show you something special. He disappeared into the back room and came out with a ring that was absolutely perfect. Everything I'd described, but somehow even more beautiful than I'd imagined. This just came in from our designer in New York. One of a kind. The moment I saw it, I knew it was meant for Iris. Now, you might be wondering, how did Zoe find out about all this? Because surely the story doesn't end with me just quietly moving on and living happily ever after, right? Well, you'd be correct. Because on the day I proposed to Iris, I made sure we were somewhere very public. Very visible. Somewhere where I knew word would get back to certain people. I took her to the botanical gardens where the whole city goes for weekend strolls. It was a gorgeous Saturday afternoon in August, and the place was packed with families and couples and photographers capturing special moments. I'd arranged for a spot near the rose garden, where there was a small gazebo surrounded by blooming flowers. I'd even hired a photographer to capture the moment, not for show, but because I wanted to remember every detail of the day I asked the woman I truly loved to marry me. When I got down on one knee and opened that ring box, Iris gasped so loudly that everyone within 50 feet turned to look. The ring caught the sunlight and sparkled like something out of a fairy tale. Iris Day, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "You've been my best friend, my partner, my everything for the past 8 months. But the truth is, you've had my heart for a lot longer than that, I just didn't know it yet. Will you marry me?" She said yes before I even finished the question. Tears streaming down her face, hands shaking as I slipped that gorgeous ring onto her finger. The crowd around us actually burst into applause, and I heard more than one person comment on how beautiful the ring was. It was everything the Christmas proposal should have been. Everything I'd dreamed it would be. But here's where that wicked sense of humor I mentioned earlier really kicks in. One of those people taking pictures and posting them on social media? Nora Vale, a girl we'd all known in college who was friends with literally everyone from our graduating class. By that evening, the photos were everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok. Beautiful shots of the proposal with captions about true love and gorgeous rings and fairy tale moments. And by Monday morning, my phone was exploding. The first call was from Jake. "Dude, what the hell? $100,000? How is that even possible?" I let it go to voicemail. The second call was from my mom. "Liam, we need to talk. About everything." Voicemail. The third call was from Zoe herself. This one I answered. "Are you completely insane?" she screamed before I even said hello. $100,000 ring? For her? When you couldn't even manage a decent ring for me. "Hello to you too, Zoe. Don't you dare act casual with me. Where did you get that kind of money? And don't tell me it's from your little real estate hobby." My little real estate hobby has done pretty well for itself. How well? Well enough. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. There was a pause. Then, "I want to see you. We need to talk face to face." "No. Please. Just one conversation. I deserve that much." "You don't deserve anything from me." "Fine. Then I'll just have to find another way to get your attention." She hung up. And I should have known that was a threat, not just dramatic posturing. 3 days later, I found out what she meant. I was having lunch with Iris at a cafe near her office when Zoe walked in. Not coincidentally, she'd clearly been watching and waiting for the right moment. She marched straight over to our table, and before either of us could react, she grabbed Iris's left hand to get a better look at the ring. "Oh my," she said loudly enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "He really spent $100,000 on this thing." "Let go of me," Iris said calmly, pulling her hand back. "Do you have any idea what he bought me? 40,000. 40. Like I was some kind of discount girlfriend." People were starting to stare. The manager was already walking over. "Zoe, you need to leave," I said. "No, I need to understand. I need to understand how you went from 40,000 to 100,000 in 8 months. What changed, Liam?" "Everything changed." "What does that mean?" And this is where I made a decision that probably wasn't the smartest, but felt incredibly satisfying in the moment. "It means I stopped wasting money on people who didn't deserve it." Her face went white. "What are you talking about?" "Jake's apartment. Jake's car. Jake's credit cards. Jake's entire lifestyle for 2 years. Ring any bells?" The restaurant had gone completely quiet. Even the kitchen staff had stopped what they were doing to listen. "You're lying." "Am I? Why don't you ask Jake how his BMW is running these days?" "Oh wait, you can't, because it got repossessed." "That's impossible. Jake has his own money." "Jake has never had his own money. Everything he had, everything that impressed you enough to cheat on me with him, came from me." I could see her brain working, trying to process this information. Trying to figure out how everything she thought she knew could be wrong. But he said. What did he say, Zoe? That he was successful? That he was rich? Did he actually say that, or did you just assume it because of the lifestyle he was living? She opened and closed her mouth several times without making a sound. "Here's the thing you never understood about me," I continued. "I didn't buy you a cheap ring because I couldn't afford better. I bought you the ring I thought you deserved based on how you treated me. Turns out I was exactly right. You're a liar. You're just trying to hurt me. I'm trying to eat lunch with my fiancé. You're the one who came here looking for a confrontation." The manager finally reached our table. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." But Zoe wasn't done. "This whole thing is fake," she announced to the restaurant. "She's only with him for his money. Just like I was." And that's when Iris, who had been sitting quietly through this entire scene, finally spoke up. "Actually, Zoe, I've been in love with him since college. Long before I knew he had any money. But, thanks for confirming that you were only with him for what he could buy you. The entire restaurant was dead silent. Zoe looked at Iris, then at me, then at all the people staring at her. Her face turned bright red. "This isn't over," she said for the second time. "Yeah, it is," I replied. Security escorted her out. The manager apologized profusely and comped our meal. And Iris and I finished our lunch while people occasionally glanced over and smiled at us sympathetically. "Well," Iris said as we walked back to her office, "that was interesting. I'm sorry about that. I should have handled it better." "Are you kidding? That was perfect. Did you see her face when she realized Jake had been living off your money? I probably shouldn't have aired all that dirty laundry in public. Sometimes dirty laundry needs to be aired. Especially when someone keeps trying to rewrite history." But Zoe still wasn't done with us. Over the next month, she tried everything she could think of to break us up or make our lives miserable. She created fake social media accounts to leave nasty comments on our photos. She called Iris's workplace claiming to be a concerned friend with information about her unstable boyfriend. She even tried to contact my business partners to spread rumors about my financial situation. None of it worked. Our friends saw through her lies. Iris's coworkers thought she was crazy. And my business partners had known me for years and weren't about to take the word of some random woman over their own experience with me. But the final straw came in September. Iris and I were at a charity gala, one of those fancy events where everyone dresses up and bids on silent auctions for good causes. I bought a table for my company, and we were having a great time with some friends and colleagues. Halfway through the evening, I noticed Zoe across the room. She was wearing a dress that was way too formal for the occasion and enough jewelry to stock a small store. She was clearly trying to look like she belonged in this crowd, but she stuck out like a sore thumb. "Is that Zoe?" Iris asked, following my gaze. "Unfortunately." "How did she even get in here? These tickets are like $500 each." "I have no idea." We tried to ignore her, but it was clear she was working her way around the room toward us. And when she finally made her move, it was spectacular. During the live auction, when the auctioneer was trying to get bids on a weekend getaway package, Zoe stood up and shouted, "Before you give this man your money, you should know that he's a fraud." The entire ballroom turned to look at her. The auctioneer stopped mid-sentence. "This man," she pointed directly at me, "has been lying about his wealth for years. He bought his girlfriend a $100,000 ring with dirty money." Security was already moving toward her, but she kept going. "He's been secretly funding his brother's lifestyle and then cutting him off when it was convenient. He's manipulative and vindictive and that's when something amazing happened." Dean Snow, one of the most respected real estate developers in the city and someone I'd done several deals with, stood up. "Actually," he said in a calm, clear voice that carried across the entire ballroom, "Liam West is one of the most honest and ethical businessmen I've ever worked with. His success is entirely legitimate, and anyone who says otherwise is either misinformed or has an agenda." Then Max Field, another business partner, stood up. "I've known Liam for 5 years. His integrity is beyond question." Then Cole Day, the jeweler who'd sold me Iris's ring, stood up. "I can personally attest that Mr. West's purchase was made with legitimate funds and proper documentation." One by one, people throughout the ballroom stood up to defend me. Business partners, clients, friends, even people I barely knew but who had heard about my work through mutual connections. By the time security reached Zoe, half the room was on their feet, and she looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. They escorted her out while everyone applauded, not for her removal, but in a show of support for me and Iris. The auctioneer, clearly a professional, waited for the commotion to die down and then said, "Well, that was certainly unexpected. Now, where were we with this lovely weekend getaway?" The auction continued. We raised a ton of money for charity, and Iris and I had an amazing evening surrounded by people who actually knew us and cared about us. But the best part came later that night, when we were back at my apartment. "You know what I realized tonight?" Iris said as we were getting ready for bed. "What's that?" "I realized that I'm not just in love with you. I'm in love with the life we're building together. The friends we have, the respect you've earned, the way people see us as a team. I feel the same way. And I realized something else. Zoe did us a favor tonight." "How do you figure?" "She showed everyone exactly who she really is. And she showed everyone exactly who we really are. There's no more ambiguity, no more questions about our relationship or your character or any of it." She was right. In trying to destroy us, Zoe had actually made us stronger. But we still weren't done with the surprises. The next morning, I got a call from Jake. "I saw what happened at the gala last night," he said. "It's all over social media." "Yeah, It was quite a scene. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago. What's that? I knew. About the money. I figured it out about 6 months ago. You knew I was funding your lifestyle? I knew someone was. And when I really thought about it, you were the only person it could have been. You were the only one who cared enough and had the resources. I was quiet, processing this. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was embarrassed. And because I was scared that if I acknowledged it, you'd stop. And I liked the life I was living. So you just kept taking the money and sleeping with my girlfriend. Yeah. And I hate myself for it. Another pause. I called to apologize. Really apologize. Not because I want something from you, but because you deserve to hear it. Okay. I was jealous of you. I've always been jealous of you. You're smarter than me, more successful than me, better with people than me. And instead of trying to be better myself, I just resented you for it. Jake. Let me finish. When Zoe started paying attention to me, it felt like I was finally winning at something. Like I finally had something you wanted. And I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway because it felt good to beat you at something for once. You didn't beat me at anything. You did me a favor. I know that now. Seeing you with Iris, seeing how happy you are, seeing the life you've built. I know I didn't win anything. I just threw away the best brother anyone could ask for. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he continued. I'm not asking for another chance. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did, and I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. For what it's worth, I think Iris is perfect for you. And I think that ring you bought her is beautiful. Thanks. And Liam? I'm proud of you. For everything you've accomplished, but mostly for how you handled all this. You could have destroyed me completely, but you didn't. You just walked away and built something better. After he hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, thinking about forgiveness and family and second chances. 2 weeks later, Iris and I were having dinner when she brought up something I'd been avoiding thinking about. Have you talked to your parents lately? Not since Christmas. Don't you think it's time? I don't know. Maybe. They called me, she said quietly. I looked up from my plate. What? Your mom called me yesterday. She wanted to apologize. For Christmas, for everything. She asked if I thought you'd be willing to meet with them. What did you tell her? I told her that was your decision to make, but that holding on to anger was only hurting you. Do you ever have those moments where someone says exactly what you need to hear, even when you don't want to hear it? Because that's what that was. They really want to make things right, Iris continued. And Jake has been living with them for months now, working on getting his life together. Your mom says he's different. Different how? Humble. Grateful. Actually working instead of just expecting things to be handed to him. I thought about Jake's phone call. About the genuine remorse in his voice. About how he'd said he was proud of me. Maybe we could have them over for dinner, I said finally. Really? Yeah. But here. On our turf. And if it goes badly, they leave. That sounds fair. So the next Sunday, my parents and Jake came to my apartment for dinner. It was awkward at first, nobody quite knew what to say or how to act. But gradually, as the evening went on, we started talking like a family again. Mom apologized for what she'd said at Christmas. Dad apologized for always comparing us and making me feel like I wasn't good enough. And Jake apologized for everything. But the conversation that really mattered happened later, when Mom pulled me aside while Iris and the others were cleaning up. I need you to know something, she said. What happened at Christmas wasn't about you not being good enough. It was about us being blind to who you really were. What do you mean? I mean we saw what we expected to see instead of what was actually there. We saw Jake living this flashy lifestyle and assumed he was successful. We saw you living modestly and assumed you were struggling. I never told you guys about the real estate business. No, you didn't. And we never asked. We never showed any real interest in your life or your accomplishments. We just made assumptions. She was quiet for a moment, then continued. Your father and I have been talking about this for months. About how we failed you as parents. About how we favored Jake without even realizing it. About how we took you for granted. Mom. Let me finish. You've always been the reliable one. The one who never caused problems, never needed help, never asked for anything. And instead of appreciating that, we just ignored it. We focused all our attention on Jake because he was the one with drama and problems. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Exactly. But the wheel that never squeaks? The one that just quietly does its job and keeps everything running smoothly? That will deserves appreciation too. And we never gave you that. It was a conversation that was about 20 years overdue. But better late than never, right? By the time they left that night, something had shifted. Not back to the way things were before, too much had happened for that. But forward to something new. Something better. And Jake? Jake actually got his act together. He found a job, started paying his own rent, and began the long process of rebuilding his life the right way. We weren't best friends again overnight, but we were brothers again. And sometimes that's enough. But what about Zoe? Because surely she wasn't done causing drama, right? Well, you'd be partly right. She tried a few more desperate moves over the next couple of months. She showed up at my office building a few more times. She attempted to contact some of my business associates with wild stories about my character. She even tried to get in touch with Iris's family to warn them about me. None of it worked. People could see through her desperation. And frankly, most people were getting tired of the drama. The final chapter of the Zoe saga came in November, almost a full year after that disastrous Christmas proposal. Iris and I were at the grocery store, doing our weekly shopping like a normal, boring, happy couple, when we ran into Chloe Gray in the produce section. "Oh my, you guys," she said, rushing over with her cart. "Did you hear about Zoe?" "What about her?" Iris asked, though I could tell she wasn't really sure she wanted to know. "She got arrested last week." "Arrested?" I said. "For what?" "Stalking. Apparently, she's been following around that guy Ryan Blue, you remember him from college? And his new girlfriend. Same pattern as what she did to you guys, but she escalated it. Started showing up at the girlfriend's work, leaving threatening messages, the whole thing." "That's actually really sad," Iris said. And you know what? It was sad. Not because I felt sorry for Zoe, she'd made her choices and now she was dealing with the consequences. But because it meant she'd learned absolutely nothing from everything that had happened. She was still the same person who thought she was entitled to whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted it. Still the same person who couldn't handle rejection or accept responsibility for her actions. "There's more," Chloe continued. "Apparently, Ryan's girlfriend is some hotshot attorney who doesn't mess around. She got a restraining order, press charges, the works. Zoe's looking at serious jail time if she violates the order." "Hopefully that's a wake-up call for her," I said. "I doubt it," Chloe replied. "Some people never learn." As we finished our shopping and drove home, Iris was quiet. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. "Just what a different path my life could have taken. If I'd been more like Zoe. If I'd focused on the wrong things, made the wrong choices." "But you didn't." "No, I didn't. But I could have. It would have been easy to be jealous of what she had, to try to compete with her instead of just being myself." "What stopped you?" "My parents, I think. They raised me to believe that character mattered more than possessions. That kindness was more important than status. That real love was about choosing someone every day, not just when it was convenient." We pulled into our driveway and sat there for a moment before going inside. "I'm glad you waited for me," I said. "I'm glad you were worth waiting for." That Christmas, exactly 1 year after the proposal disaster, Iris and I hosted our own family dinner. Both sets of parents, Jake, a few close friends. Nothing fancy, just good food and good company and the kind of warmth that comes from being surrounded by people who actually care about each other. And as I looked around that table, watching everyone laugh and talk and enjoy themselves, I realized something important. The worst thing that had ever happened to me had led directly to the best thing that had ever happened to me. If Zoe hadn't humiliated me that Christmas Eve, I never would have found the courage to cut toxic people out of my life. I never would have discovered my own worth. I never would have been emotionally available when Iris finally told me how she felt. If Jake hadn't betrayed me, I never would have learned the difference between family who love you and family who use you. I never would have set boundaries that forced everyone to treat me with the respect I deserved. If my parents hadn't shown their true colors that night, we never would have had the conversations that led to a real relationship instead of the surface level one we'd had before. Every terrible thing that happened had been necessary to get me to where I was now. With the woman I truly loved, surrounded by people who truly valued me, living a life that actually made me happy instead of just comfortable. The wedding was in May, almost exactly 2 years after Iris and I had our first real conversation. Small ceremony, just family and close friends, in the same botanical gardens where I'd proposed. Iris looked absolutely radiant in her dress, and when she walked down the aisle toward me, I had to work hard not to cry in front of everyone. During the reception, as we were having our first dance, she leaned in close and whispered, do you ever wonder what would have happened if things had gone differently that Christmas? Sometimes, I whispered back. But then I remember that if things had gone differently, I wouldn't be here with you. No regrets? Only one. What's that? I regret that it took me so long to realize you were the one I should have been with all along. She smiled and pulled me closer. Some things are worth waiting for. And you know what? She was absolutely right. Fast forward to today, and Iris and I have been married for 6 months. We're happy in a way that feels sustainable and real, not like the dramatic highs and lows I used to think were normal in relationships. We're building something together, not just a marriage, but a whole life. My business is thriving. Jake and I have a relationship that's honest instead of enabling. My parents and I actually talk about real things now instead of just surface pleasantries. And I wake up every morning next to someone who chose me not because of what I could give her, but because of who I am. As for Zoe, I heard through the grapevine that she eventually did some jail time for the stalking charges. Last I heard, she was in therapy and staying with her sister in another state, hopefully getting the help she clearly needed. I don't wish her ill. I actually hope she figures things out and finds whatever it is she's really looking for. But I'm grateful every day that she's no longer my problem to solve. The funny thing about revenge is that the best kind isn't something you plan or execute. It's just living well. It's being happy. It's building something beautiful with people who deserve your time and energy and love. Every day I spend being genuinely happy with Iris is a better response to what Zoe did than any elaborate scheme I could have come up with. Every success in my business, every deepened friendship, every moment of peace and contentment is proof that she didn't break me. She just showed me what I didn't want in my life. And sometimes, that's the most valuable lesson you can learn. So to anyone out there who's been betrayed, humiliated, or made to feel like they're not enough, let me tell you something important. The people who treat you that way are telling you everything you need to know about them and nothing you need to believe about yourself. Your worth isn't determined by people who can't see it. Your value isn't diminished by people who don't appreciate it. And your future isn't limited by people who couldn't envision it. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to realize what you actually needed. Sometimes the worst betrayal is actually the biggest blessing in disguise. And sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who push you toward the life you were meant to live. Trust me on this one. I'm living proof that sometimes rock bottom is just a solid foundation for building something amazing. Even if you have to get spit on first to figure it out.